There's a sailboat on a dock in Sausalito that looks like $250,000. Teak tow rails, a sweep of sheer that stops people mid-stride, a cutter rig that says ocean from 50 feet away. The asking price is $38,000. That's not a typo. She isn't broken. She's a genuinely built boat wearing a genuinely expensive face, and she's been sitting on that broker's list for 190 days, while the white plastic 40 in the next slip, half the boat and twice the fresh sails, went in a weekend for $140,000. 30 years of saltwater on my hands, a lot of it offshore. And I'll tell you the thing nobody at the boat show has any reason to say out loud. The market does not price a sailboat by how good she is. It prices her by two things: whose name is on the transom and how new she looks tied to the dock. Find a boat that scores low on both and high on everything that actually matters, and you've found the cheapest way in this sport ever offers you. A boat that looks like a fortune and sells like a bargain. Their forgetting is your discount. So today, 5 sailboats that look expensive and sell cheap. I'll give you the price, the pedigree, and the reason the gap exists, because the gap is never the boat. One of them I'm going to stand up and defend, because half the sailing world sneers at her rig and half the sailing world is wrong. And the one with the widest gap of all, the boat that looks like $1 million and sells like a used car, I saved for last. Let's get into them. First, understand why looks and price ever come apart, because on a new boat they don't. 20, 30, 40 years on, the badge is a company that folded. There's no dealer, no marketing, no new boat smell, 2 slips down to measure her against, and the price falls to whatever a cash buyer will hand over on a Tuesday. Now stack the deck against her. Give her a traditional profile, a bowsprit, a long keel, low freeboard, teak in the cockpit, in a market where most buyers have been taught that a real cruiser is white, wide, and tall. She reads as old. And every one of those reactions is about the picture, not the passage. There's one real bill on every boat here, and I'll say it once so I don't have to keep saying it. Standing rigging, the wire holding the mast up, is a 10 to 15 year part, and a boat this age wants fresh wire before she goes anywhere. Re-rigging one of these runs about $6,000 to $10,000. Take it off the asking price before you step aboard, and you'll never overpay. One of them doesn't even have the bill. Now, the boats. We start at number 5, the Whitby 42. Walk the docks in any cruising anchorage from the Chesapeake to the Rio Dulce, and you'll find one. And you'll always look twice. A center cockpit ketch with an aft cabin, a full keel, a skeg-hung rudder, and the unmistakable look of a boat drawn to go offshore and lift aboard while she does it. Ted Brewer drew her, and Brewer drew some of the most respected cruising boats of his generation. What the buyer sees is a $50,000 problem wearing a $200,000 coat. What she actually costs right now is between $54,000 and $60,000 for a clean one, and less for a tired one you're willing to work. Here's the gap. She's a 2-masted, 42-foot lift-aboard cruiser from the 1970s and 80s, and every single thing the modern buyer has been trained to want, she is the opposite of. She's heavy. She's not fast. And that's exactly why a proper world cruising ketch that has carried families around the planet trades for less than a 10-year-old coastal boat that's never left the bay. The honest flaw is age, and it's usually an engine. A lot of these are still running the diesel they left the factory with, a Perkins or a Ford, and at 40-plus years that's a motor near the end of its story. A repower on a boat this size is a real number, $10,000 to $15,000. She'll take you across and keep you comfortable doing it. The market just can't see past her second mast. Number 4, the Downeaster 38, and now we're looking at pure saltwater romance, a clipper bow, a bowsprit, a wine-glass transom, a shear line out of another century. From a dock, she looks like a $100,000 passage maker. Somebody sailed home from the South Seas. She sells for $30,000 to $50,000. Henry Morschlatt drew her for one job, carrying a couple across open water and keeping them aboard when they got there. and Down East Yachts built better than 300 of them in Santa Ana, California, before the company folded in the early 80s. Full keel. Ballast at better than 40% of her weight, so she stands up and stays on her feet when it pipes. This is a real offshore boat wearing the exact profile the market has decided is too old, and the discount is the whole opportunity. I'll give you the honest knock, because it's real. Her sail plan is modest. She is no ocean greyhound, and in light air you'll be reaching for the key while lighter boats ghost past you. She won't win you a race to the sea buoy. She'll just still be under you, dry and steady, 1,000 miles past it. Number 3 is where I'm going to argue with half of you, because number 3 doesn't look like any other boat on this list, and the sailing world has never quite known what to do with her. The Freedom 40. 2 masts, no shrouds, no stays, no forest of wire, no turnbuckles, no headstay, nothing holding those spars up but the boat herself. Freestanding, unstayed masts, aluminum on the earliest boats and carbon fiber on the later ones, with the sails set as a cat-catch. Gary Hoyt dreamed her up, and the office of Halsey Harrishoff helped draw her, yes, that Harrishoff family, and Tillotson Pearson built her in Rhode Island to a standard most production yards never touched. A clean one runs $40,000 to $60,000. Here's what the crowd says. That's not a real sailboat. That's a toy. No backstay, no way I'm taking that offshore. And here's where they're wrong, and I'll stand on it. That unstayed rig is one of the most genuinely clever cruising ideas of the last 50 years. There's nothing to tune, nothing to fail at the swage. In a hard blow, the whole rig simply bends off and spills the gust instead of loading a wire until something lets go. You reef by rolling sail around the mast. And remember that bill I told you every other boat on this list carries, the $6,000 to $10,000 re-rig, the wire on the clock. The first question your insurer asks, she doesn't have it. There's no standing rigging to replace because there's no standing rigging. The single most expensive recurring bill in this whole sport, and she skips it entirely. She has her own upkeep. The spars want inspecting, the sails are big, and the gear that sets them is particular, and she won't point with a modern sloop. Fair. But the buyer who writes her off as a gimmick is turning down a capable, short-handed ocean boat that quietly deleted the one bill that scares everybody else. That's not a toy. That's a boat that was thinking 30 years ahead of the market that ignored her. If this is the kind of straight talk you don't get from a man selling square footage on the water, do me a favor before the last two. Tap that like button, then hit subscribe. I put one of these out every week, and there's always another boat the market got wrong. Number 2, the Ericson 38. And this is the one that'll make you wonder what you've been paying for. She's a lean, elegant, reverse transom sloop, low and quick looking on the water, the kind of boat that looks like it cost real money at the yacht club, because Bruce King drew her, and Bruce King went on to draw some of the most breathtaking wooden megayachts on the planet, boats that change hands for tens of millions. This is his hand, in fiberglass, for the price of a used pickup. Clean ones run from the high 20s to the high 50s, call it $44,000 on average. When Ericson wound down, Pacific Seacraft, one of the most respected offshore names in this country, the yard behind the Pacific Seacraft 37 I put at number 1 in the very first video on this channel, bought the molds for this exact boat and kept building her under their own name. A builder that careful does not put its badge on a boat that isn't right underneath. Now the honest part, and it matters on this channel. The Ericson 38 is a coastal and performance boat, not a heavy weather ocean bruiser. Fin keel, spade rudder, a boat happiest reaching along a coast in good style rather than shouldering through a gale 5 days out. But for a couple who want a beautiful, quick, well-built boat to sail the coast and the islands and actually enjoy looking back at. From the dinghy, there is not a better-looking dollar on this list. You're not paying for a badge. You're paying for a hull a mega yacht designer drew and an offshore legend thought worth copying. And number 1, the widest gap of all, The boat that looks like $1 million and sells like a new production 40. The Little Harbor 44. Ted Hood drew her. If you've been with me a while, you know the name, the same Ted Hood who drew the Bristol 40 I put at the top of an earlier list. Hood built his Little Harbors as his own idea of what a yacht ought to be, hull after hull of custom teak and bronze out of Taiwan, and only 15 of the 44s were ever made. A keel centerboarder that draws 5 feet with the board up and points like a knife with it down. Today a good one runs between $120,000 and $150,000. That is Little Harbor pedigree, custom built, for the price of a bare-bones new plastic boat with a 5-year warranty and a sail drive. She is cheap to buy, and she is not cheap to keep. Everything on a Little Harbor costs Little Harbor money. That 2-part bronze centerboard and its pennant are a genuine service item. So ask when it was last dropped, and if the answer's a shrug, price it hard. The teak decks, if they're original, are a 5-figure decision waiting for you. Buy the cheap one with a thin folder, and the boat that looked like a bargain will teach you, one invoice at a time, exactly why she was cheap. But buy the right one, board serviced, decks sorted, receipts in a binder, and you own a boat people will assume cost you 3 times what it did, for as long as you keep her. So what would I do with my own money? If I wanted the most boat for the fewest dollars, and I wanted to be able to sell her again without a 2-year wait, I'd buy the Ericson 38. For coastal cruising and the islands, that's the smart money, and it isn't close. If I meant to actually leave, to get across something and lift aboard on the far side, I'd take the Downeaster 38 and put the money I saved straight into the rig, the sails, and a wind vane. She's slow. She's also still floating, steady and dry, on the morning you raise a coast that was under the horizon when you started. And the Little Harbor? I'd only buy her with a fat folder and a survey I trusted, because the cheap one isn't cheap. On that boat, the expensive-looking one really can cost you, just not on the day you sign. Because here's the thread under all 5. Every one of these was built by a company that no longer exists, and that is a big part of why they're cheap. But a couple of those dead names have started to turn. Next time, the handful of forgotten builders whose boats have already stopped falling and started to climb. The ones to buy now, while nobody's looking. Until then, don't let anybody tell you a price tag is the truth about a boat. The truth is in the laminate, the keel, and the miles already under her, and the best of it, more often than not, is hiding behind a face the market was too busy to look at twice,